Alpina B3 Biturbo Review. The Alpina B3 isn't an M car. Yes, it's a powerful BMW 3 Series, yes, it's exclusive, yes, it's fast, and yes, it's on the reassuringly expensive side. But if you know Alpina, you'll know it does things differently. Within the automotive world, the relationship between Alpina and BMW is a rare and precious one. BMW, global player though it is, doesn't just tolerate the independent company Alpina, registered as a manufacturer in its own right 30 years ago, but genuinely enjoys its relationship with it, to the extent that a high-performance Alpina will usually arrive long before an M division version of the same model. This time, the engine modifications run quite deep. BMW didn't offer such a twin-turbocharged 6 at the time, but now offer it in the shape of the 340i. It takes the number of Alpina models currently on sale to an impressive 7, adding up to a total volume of around 2,000 units a year, and they can be serviced at any BMW dealer. Such is the case here with the B3 Biturbo, a 404 bhp variant of the latest F30/F31 3 Series in the finest Alpina form, with a twin-turbo straight-six engine, automatic gearbox and subtle modifications to chassis and design. Alpina has been fettling the BMW 3 Series for almost as long as there has been one to fettle. The earliest cars, based on the original E21 and badged A1/3, were delivered to Buchloe for tuning post-build. By 1978, the firm was introducing models developed and partially built in-house, including the legendary six-cylinder B6 2.8, a car that actually predated BMW's own M20-powered 3 Series. By 2007, and the introduction of the 3.0-liter B3 Biturbo, Alpina had sold nearly 6,000 examples of its successors. Alpina's unusual relationship with BMW generally produces some intriguing and, by and large, thoroughly alluring products. Let's see if it's the same this time. To a large extent, visually at least, you know what you're going to get with an Alpina: multi-spoke alloy wheels with threateningly low-profile rubber and subtle, often angular body additions. A couple of our testers thought the styling a touch fussy around the front of the latest 3 Series, and others, the majority, that it was right in keeping with Alpina's heritage. Either way, those who know about Alpina will know this is an Alpina. Ditto with those 20-inch alloys, which are covered in, perhaps crucially, rubber that isn't of the run-flat variety. The tires are the most outwardly apparent elements of a thorough overhaul of the 3 Series dynamic makeup. The suspension is, of course, based on the latest F30 Series 340i with adaptive dampers, but the B3 wears bespoke buck springs that are 45% stiffer and has its own bump stops and Alpina-specific anti-roll bars, albeit sourced from BMW. There is more negative camber, while the front subframe, with a strut brace, has been redesigned, partly to increase body rigidity and partly by necessity, because the B3 gets a twin-turbocharged, rather than single-turbo, variant of BMW's 335i engine that headed the range at launch. Alpina says this is because its two smaller turbochargers take less time to spool than even BMW's twin-scroll turbo. A twin-scroll inlet for a single turbocharger negates some of the lag associated with a large turbo, which is why BMW adopted it for its N55 six-cylinder engine. With such a turbocharger, incoming exhaust gases are separated into two scrolls, the curved pipes that circumnavigate the turbo housing and direct exhaust gases towards the turbine. On a straight 6, each scroll takes its gas from 3 cylinders, those whose exhaust valve cycles don't overlap, which in turn makes for more efficient spinning of the turbocharger. Typically, the scrolls pump gas at the turbine at different angles and pressures from each other, and even onto different parts of the turbine, one scroll to provide quick response, the other for peak performance. However, Alpina believes that two smaller turbochargers are quicker still to respond, hence it has junked the N55 single, twin-scroll turbo and developed its own twin-turbo solution. This requires use of twin-turbo-capable flanges, which are already cast into the N55's aluminum crankcase, handily leaving the door open for the return of two turbos on the upcoming BMW M3 and M4. Alpina's tweaked engine also has a forged steel crankshaft, Alpina-specific ECU and wiring loom, NGK spark plugs, a high-performance fuel pump and a 40% bigger intercooler than that used on the BMW 335i. The upshot of all these modifications is that the 3.0-liter straight-six, which drives the rear wheels through a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, produces 404 bhp and 443 pounds-foot, a particularly impressive result, especially when you consider that the claimed combined fuel economy is 37.2 miles per gallon. Other notables include Alpina's own tuning of BMW's variable sport steering, which quickens off the straight ahead, its not active steer, and stability programs, and an optional, but not fitted here, limited slip diff. Brake discs are ventilated, not drilled, and 370 mm in diameter at the front, 345 mm at the rear. The B3 Biturbo is also available in the more practical outfit of the 3 Series Touring, which gives a compelling mix of power and practicality in one dosage. Accessible torque is something the BMW Alpina has long since traded on, and it has always made for a fairly stark contrast with M Division's official Go Faster saloons, which were fitted with higher revving atmospheric engines, until recently, at least. Alpina's twin-turbo solution makes this car smooth and responsive at low revs, when the smaller compressor is providing the boost. There is very little softness in the accelerator pedal, just precision and proportionality, which is to be expected from a company that knows the value of drivability in a road car. So when you ask for 40% of engine performance, that's exactly what you get, and you get it pretty smartly, unlike some high-output turbo engines, where it's as if you have to ask for 60% before feathering the accelerator to get the desired 40%. The true pace of the B3 is better reflected by in-gear acceleration than the standing start numbers we recorded. The 30 to 70 miles per hour dash can take as little as 4.2 seconds in third gear, a still muscular 5.3 seconds in fourth and 7.3 seconds in fifth. This is instant, generous, real-world speed of the no sooner said than done variety. If you put the gearbox in manual mode, the B3 feels brisk largely irrespective of gear, across a broad speed range. But left-hand, the accelerative experience is even more convincing. The ZF 8-speed auto brilliantly makes the most of that pulling power, upshifting as and when you'd want it to and only kicking down when you expect. The price to be paid makes itself known the instant the bigger of the two turbos comes on boost and peak torque is delivered. At full throttle, this happens in a slightly unceremonious rush that's in conflict with the smoothness of the engine's delivery everywhere else. You could say it adds drama, and on the track it's possible to drive around the problem most of the time. But not always. And we'd prefer to know exactly when 443 pounds-foot is going to turn up rather than having to guess.